Hello everyone, welcome to the Innovator Coffee, a podcast that bridges the gap between people and the world of AI and innovation, where Tom and Vicky follow us to explore the top AI applications, ecosystem insights, and the emerging trends. This is our AI coding session 2 with Sue and Graham. Enjoy.
As a developer, I'm playing with many languages mostly like Python, JavaScript, and of course SQL. I remember back in the last year, of course, Python's performance for code generation are quite good, but SQL is awkward. But I don't know, like all the languages, what are the kind of current status of like code generation in various languages? Also, the mobile application will have Swift or Kotlin, like small languages, or Go, or other typical languages, Java and C++. What's the current status right now? What's the most challenging languages right now we have for code generation? Yeah, maybe start from Grant.
So I'm sure all the banks would love a model of COBOL because then they could transfer all of their legacy systems into a modern programming language and be extremely happy. But there's no good model of COBOL. But going back to like more modern languages, I think Python seems to be clearly the best, and I think that's a function of Python being a relatively easy language to program in. But also, you'll notice if you use ChatGPT, all of its like code interpretation and stuff like that is in Python. So I think they very heavily like prioritized that as the language of choice for not just software development applications, but also kind of like chat applications and program aided, language models, code interpreters, whatever you call them. After that, to be honest, I did an evaluation of language models over a lot of languages like many years ago, but I haven't done it recently, so I'm not 100% sure. But my impression is JavaScript is a little bit harder. C++ is still very hard, also because it's just a programming language that's hard to program in. But one other thing that I'd like to point out is it's not just languages, it's frameworks. So JavaScript has a bunch of different frameworks, and programming in React in JavaScript is really good. Actually, it works more or less out of the box. But Svelte and other like newer frameworks that some developers really like because they're very easy to program in are actually a lot worse with the language models. And probably, I haven't actually tried this, but probably, for example, programming in PyTorch is relatively good. Programming in JAX is relatively bad. Or programming in PyTorch 2.0 might be worse than programming in PyTorch 1.2 or something like that. So it's not just a language question, it's also a framework question, and frameworks are everything nowadays. So it's rather complicated.
How about SQL? Because we quite did a lot of like text to SQL tasks, which are quite typical. Then can you comment more on this?
Yeah, SQL, I have done some previous work on SQL, but it was about 8 to 10 months ago. So that's forever in AI land, I guess. But then my impression was it's okay, but definitely not perfect, like even with the kind of frontier models. Especially for more complex queries, it will, make silly mistakes. And the thing is, like data science, another interesting thing is like people push the frontiers of what's possible. So like once they know that something's possible, they will try to do the next thing. And data scientists are very, rich in their imagination, or analysts are very rich in their imagination of the things they want to do. So they come up with these, ridiculously complex SQL queries and, break our current models. So I think text to SQL is very much not solved at all, despite the fact that some people might think it is.
Thank you. How about Sue?
Yeah, I learned a lot. This is a really interesting answer. Yeah, and the platform thing. And then to add on that, you mentioned about the financial industry, and then we've seen healthcare industry, the same thing. And then, it's not just the language itself, whether it's popular or not, but also where can you get the data for specific industry? And then, there is a limited access, this company called Epic, they got sued recently by a startup because they just do not want you to get to medical record data. And then also, data challenging is also very highly regulated, right? So FDA and HIPAA compliance, everything. So it just killed a lot of startups. And you don't know how many kind of like startups they wanted to, this bench from YC, they wanted to try agents between hospital and insurance company for pre-authorizations. It was a beautiful, beautiful demo. So I think maybe, those real world, real life scenario can actually have a chance. And you actually get the data, solve the edge problem, underserved problem, and get the data first. And then eventually you can help people that actually wanted to build a model out of it. So I feel like, before financial industry, healthcare industry, those are highly regulated, difficult to digitalize them, difficult to crunch their data. But I feel like Gen AI has a chance because of the usability, because of the magic moment.
Yeah, Graham, I'm so glad you mentioned COBOL, right? Because there are so many legacy system in financial industries, and even for the people who stay there to maintain the system, there are not that many. Yeah, I can see there's a high demand. Maybe that's a new trend for like people who's thinking about new startup. Anyway, yeah. So so like in the AI coding industry, we saw a lot of benefits from those new technologies, but at the same time, there are some like unsafe code generated from those AI coding tools. Then, so my question is like, how can we fix issues related to unsafe code generation? Graham, do you want to go first?
Yeah, this is a really good question. At the moment, my general way of thinking about this is we would like to build tools for software developers, and we hope that the software developers will be reading the code that is generated. Still, it's hard because it's very tempting because agents accelerate your work so much. They generate full things, files worth of code for you. It's very tempting to not look at it very carefully and just assume that it's going to be correct. So I think that it will be important to consider this. And we're actually partnering with another company called Invariant Labs, which is kind of doing AI safety analysis for AI generated code. And there's a couple other places that are also doing similar things. And I think that might become a pretty important topic. Separately from that, like whether code that is run can cause damage to systems before humans take a look at it, there are kind of ways that we can get around this. Like we run all of our code in Docker sandboxes so that it can't escape and cause damage to the surrounding systems. And for agents, like for example, when we have agents push to GitHub, we give them credentials, only like the very smallest amount of credentials in order to do the thing that they need to do. So it's kind of like the principle of least privilege, and it also applies to coding agents, just like it applies to other, security issues. But I don't think this problem is solved. I think it's a tricky problem that we're going to have to deal with.
Sue, how about you?
Yeah, totally agree. Actually, as I mentioned before, security, this is new type of a security fraud detection has been super hot and super, complex. So it really require industry experiments and also top-notch team. You actually have the you actually have the capability to work with your customer, let your customer to work with you with dedicated team to give you more like human feedback, right? So you wanted to have a lot of reinforcement learning from feedback, and then so it's a lot of resources in the very beginning. So that is why it's very difficult for startups. If you just raise a little bit of money, you don't have a lot of experiences, and you don't have the complete solution. So to solve security is not easy job. However, this is a huge market. This is new type of security area, and especially we've seen a lot of laboratory spin-off from Columbia, maybe from CMU, maybe, and then from USC. We'll talk to professors, and then professors are very good at this, and also professor has a lot of influence in the industry. And then we're talking to, and they got very excited. And then so they mentioned to me that, this problem has been existing for decades, not just today. So it just, my research has been following this for decades. So we're building on decades of research. So it's a very complex problem. And then do you feel like, it has to from academia? We're also saying people actually have, really like AI advocate from this security companies, and they actually came out and started a company because they got very excited, and then they were AI advocates before, and now their existing business doing very well, but they are working on this new initiative. And then so it require efforts between academia and also industry together. So so it's just the vulnerability of database, and also so many aspects that you can start with. So this security is just a beautiful industry that we actually have rewards. It's a very rewarding industry to invest in.
Regarding unsafe code, there could be many aspects. I have follow-up question. People are kind of using AI to generate the hacking code, for example. So from the social perspective, do you perceive any kind of current impact on the society, or AI researcher or regulations are currently doing? And also for unsafety, we know hallucinations. AI generating non-existing API calls or whatever this kind of error code could lead the crash of the system. So according to your perspective, current products, how do we can avoid, try to best avoid this bad impact? Maybe start from Sue.
Yeah, so you saying AI is really good at web scraping, and then they can actually scraping data from unsecure website, and then those websites may have very valuable data, and then however before it takes years. I mean, it takes efforts, right? So but now an AI can do this for you, and then it's just definitely considered gray area hacking, and then for commercial purpose, for really criminal purpose, and it's definitely very, very bad. And then also there are browser extension now very safe. They collect user data, and then this is really bad. Like before, you can only do at the smaller scale, but with AI, and then they generating code for you, and then multi agents, and very unfortunate, and this becomes a problem at scale. And so we definitely invest in this field, and then we felt like before this is more like a small problem, but now it's ubiquitous. Matter of fact, we invest in a company like Reality Defender, in South Korea, and then young woman has been victim. There was a protest. Young girl's face, high school girl's face was actually put on pornography video generated by AI, and then it was spreaded at school. And then so we invest in this company, Reality Defender. It can actually help with generating reports saying that, oh, this video wasn't you, and then they actually have to take it down from the website. And then also we've seen, human trafficking problem, and then so right now we can actually we invest a company Rescue Forensics. So they actually look at the deep web to actually screen all those like human trafficking advertisement and then try to track them. And there are Bitcoin, transaction involved in human trafficking, and then Engine.com, they can actually track those transactions and linked with CIA and their database for such kind of tracking down criminal events. So definitely, from both sides, we can use AI to beat AI.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom, I recently actually see a lot of great startup coming to address those questions. You can see all those like red teaming and the new vulnerability detection. And even from YC demo day recently, you can see 3 or 4 companies like that. Well, maybe we should do the other session to specifically talk about those. Yeah.
Thank you. Grant, do you want to add more?
I think that was a great answer by Sue. I don't like one thing I would like to say is we need to prevent like accidental damage by a dumb AI agent. And I think we can mostly solve that with the measures that I talked about before, kind of like sandboxing, careful credentialing, other stuff like that. Then separately from that, it's like, how do we prevent malicious actors from abusing existing technology? And one interesting anecdote that I heard is a lot of the phishing code that is generated, like spear phishing, trying to get people to turn over their credit cards and other stuff like that. A lot of that is generated by ChatGPT, just because ChatGPT is easiest to use. And OpenAI and Anthropic are the companies that are trying, the hardest to lock down on this usage. And the reason why a lot of it happens through ChatGPT is just because it's very hard to tell the difference between a phishing email and like a legitimate email. If I say, please send an email to X person and my name is Y, then how can ChatGPT tell that that's not legitimate? Because it could actually be Y. So it's going to be remarkably tricky to try to prevent people from doing malicious things, even if we do all the standard kind of like lockdown procedures that people are doing at this time. So my general take on this is we're going to have to really harden up our security. We're going to have really good investment in kind of defensive systems against this. Hackers are very resourceful and will use any tools that have available to them. And so, yeah, big investment in defensive tools is probably the thing that I would like to say.
Thank you. I have another question for long time context, large code bases. How currently code products relating to solving problem with long context and large code bases right now? Yeah. Anyone want to answer this question? How about Grant?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think this is solved yet. We talked about RAG systems and how current, embedding models are not sufficient for getting code. They're kind of reasonable. Handling really long contexts. Right now, the kind of main models can use 128K tokens, and this is enough to put, a moderate-sized code base almost entirely in the context, or a small-sized code base almost entirely in the context, or, many of the relevant files that you retrieved in some way. So It's a challenge, but I don't think it's a surmountable challenge. I think, improvements of code embedding models, prompt caching, all these sorts of things will probably make the problem significantly easier as we go forward.
Thank you. Sue, what's your take?
Yeah, so that's actually the next step. And then without solving these challenges, I mean, it's not going to be very useful in real world development scenarios, just like what we discussed earlier that, so I think right now we've seen solution that we really like, which is human in the loop. Again, I said that again, right? So I think it's really important that, if you are building something right now, and then it's good to have human computer collaboration. And the beauty is like the success for Turing.com is really just the workflow they have. And how do you design this workflow that can average, people in the cloud, people all around the world to actually, take advantage of them to actually work together effectively, and then make sure that they are not gaming the system. They do the right thing. So all this dirty work is very, very important to eventually improve the LLM, architecture. For example, like you can, for long context handling, and you can break it down into smaller, more like segments for people to deal with, and then for individuals. So how do you do this? And then you need a workflow platform, and also you can actually create API, and then a lot of the integration. So it all requires a lot of dirty work, and then people really have to build, not just the fancy part. I think it's really important. I mean, normally we don't like integration, but for this problem, I think integration is very important. It can work.
Thank you so much for very great answers. We have a couple questions a little more personal. And for example, the first question is, if you can redo 3 things for your investor or startup journey of AI coding, what are they? Yeah, maybe we can start from Sue.
Yeah, I think, for a lot of the AI company, we feel like they wanted to get data. Data is the key. So we invest in company like Replit, but we also invest in company not very successful. So I feel like if we want to redo things, and then we definitely want them to work on a underserved community, and then let everybody use it first, rather than, I need, I want to be the next Steve Jobs. I wanted to wait for 3-4 years and then launch my product, and nobody cared. So make something that let people use it. You can be Replit, like little kids use it, or you can be open source and just, try and error. And that's very, very important to get the data. The goal is to get data, and to especially UGC data. And so that's my advice. Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Grant?
Yeah, it's a good question. It maybe ask me in a year or so, because we just started the project about 7 months ago, and have a company for about 3 months. So I don't know if I'm far enough into all the mistakes. I had plenty of mistakes from my previous companies, and I'd be happy to tell you all about them, but they were not code generation companies. I'd just like to echo what Sue said, though, not iterating with users right away is the biggest mistake that I made. And, I think that's something we're still working on, finding the best form factor for, agents that people really love. And so, I think that's what we need to do going forward.
Yeah, the next question for me is, who's your most admired competitor and why? I think it's more for Graham. Maybe Sue can give some admired startup entrepreneurs in this field. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, like everybody who is getting lots of users who love their product is obviously somebody who I admire. Cursor is, an obvious example. I use it. People who use it seem to really like it. Replit, I haven't used myself, I have to admit. So I need to. I have been convinced that I need to try it out. But I've heard great things about it. I'd say maybe those two. GitHub Copilot was amazing for when it came out. It was very revolutionary when it came out, but I feel like, Cursor has a much better UX at the moment, so they're definitely doing well. I wouldn't say they're direct competitors with us, though. I mean, we're aiming at a different market segment, as I mentioned before, but in the code gen space, I like those.
Cool. So
Yeah, I also admire Cursor, and also I really like the collaboration between Replit and Cursor, and then to actually use them together and to make magic happen. So so I feel like for companies that I admire most, those company which has humble beginning, and then they started before the hype, and then OpenAI 2015, and then Replit 2016. So, GitHub was acquired by Microsoft, not knowing that they're going to be so big, and the revenue is like equals to the acquisition cost. So it's crazy, right? So I admire those fearless entrepreneur and coming out of something that they're really passionate about. And then I also like those companies that have managed many people, and then many success before, and they wanted to come out and then raise a really big round. It's fascinating to read their books, to listen to their talks, because a lot of the company, they were born $1 billion, right? So I admire them too. They deserve it, and then I just because the industry sometimes they need both type of company. One is humble beginning. They can be, they can make them self-made, richest the people of the year, right? So new wealth. But there are also people who monetize years of reputation, research, and then once there is new hype, they came out, they want to define the future, and then I just feel fascinating. Yeah, both.
Thank you. Next question is, what are the most interesting, innovative, or your favorite AI products you see recently? Not necessarily AI coding, but can be any. Yeah. So maybe start from Sue.
Okay, so the most interesting startup I've seen, basically there are 5 areas that there are high certainty in terms of AI. One is coding. The number one area is coding we're talking about today. And then second area we're super excited about are MarTech, marketing tech. So marketers, it's creative job, right? So AI can solve this for them. And then they don't have to do, basically they replace A/B testing. And then also they can replace HubSpot for distribution. And then, so as I said, just like coding, all those MarTech company, they are magical, but in the meantime, they replace existing industry. So people who used to pay A/B testing and HubSpot, they stopped paying for it. So once you use Risonic or company like that, in the morning they can take advantage of SEO and then give you optimized the generated content, and you think it's okay, and then with one click of a button, it got distributed to all social media, and those companies really got us excited, and then they're making real money. Yeah.
Thank you. How about you, Grant?
I think Suno is just so much fun. Like generating music in your like genre, and I just generated a theme song for our open source repository, and it's just like the lyrics are so great, the music is so great, the tone. So that's my favorite to play around with.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the next question is what trends and innovations in your field are you most excited about for the next 12 months and next 5 years? Graham, I feel like you have some answers already.
I don't. I was hoping you wouldn't call on me first, but I think trends in the next 12 months. I just think things are going to improve incrementally, like week by week over the next 12 months. And it's just going to be, like things are going to be so much better. And I'm seeing like glimpses of how, like how fun it is going to be building things in 12 months every day, like as I use coding copilots and agents and stuff like this. So I think it's going to be a lot of the little things. And then in 5 years, it's a long time in our timelines, but this is a little bit of a cliche answer, but I think software development is not just for developing software. It's for like solving all of our problems, because I believe that software is going to be the tool that solves, all of the big problems in the world, together with, all the other societal things we have as well. But, doing better science by giving scientists in life science, medicine, material science to solve global warming, giving them the tools to like analyze data, design their experiments and other things like that through development of software using tools like AI agents is going to be the biggest thing that I hope in 5 years.
Cool. Sue, how about you?
Yeah, I feel like, for Amino, our investment theme has always been data. And then we were very fortunate to invest in, those companies like we mentioned early as first check, because we're looking at two things. One thing is the team, and the second is the mission, like the vision, like how you define the product of the future. So our investment thing always believe in data. I feel like this is first principle of Silicon Valley, and then it's all data-centric AI, right? So, and then in the long term, we will not change this first principle investment thing, and then we'll continue to focus on data. And the interesting about data is, how do you get data? That's the problem, right? So I feel like the way to get data, from my own experience investing in all this company like ChimeBank, Replit, Webflow, even Zoom, and the only way to get data is through dirty work. And how to do dirty work, I think for us, is always look at those underserved community, underserved people. Like ChimeBank, they started in 2013 with only serving those undocumented people in the United States, people without Social Security. Nobody want to bank them. And then ChimeBank, they actually bank them. How can they do that? And then they are using the next generation technology, which is mobile banking system. So I feel like that's the only way to make magic happen. It will happen again and again. And, I feel like, we still stick to this in the long run. In short term, as I mentioned, there were 2 areas already excited, already have certainty. There are 3 other areas we feel there are high certainty. However, nobody has got there yet. So the third area was fintech, highly regulated and tricky, super tricky, because a lot of the data was owned by FactSet and some status quo companies, and they already having data. So it's very, very difficult for startup to tackle them. But we've seen at least the two area, financial institutions are adopting those startup solutions. One is contract drafting, the other is due diligence. And then the fourth area was gaming and filming, and super difficult, super expensive, but high certainty. And so those are the areas that we are, in the short run, we continue to put money in.
Thank you. Next question is, do you have any books or suggestions regarding the AI coding or something inspire you for your audience? Of course, I'm following Sue for her YouTube channel. And besides that, can you suggest any kind of more material for the audience? Maybe start from Sue.
I would say, from my mentor, the book called VC Demystify, right? So from Larry Lee. So I think it is a really good book. And then it kind of like for the last 12 years, we've been working together and learn from him. And then I feel like every day I was trained to be this listener, to be this learner, because I've trained as a scientist, PhD, postdoc, as you guys, right? So I think my passion is about learning. So I feel like, Larry really taught me how to learn. And then I'm still learning every single day. And then we have a back-to-back. That's the beauty of being early stage VC. And then once I get up, I have this idea, I want to invest in this field, and I can have back-to-back meetings, 30 minutes meetings with all these top-notch scientists, professors, and then telling us how they got here and what the secret sauce. So really, really fascinating experience. But that book covers a lot of what I learned. And another one recently, Professor Ilya. So at Stanford, he published a book called Venture Mindset. Very similar, right? Probably you guys we're all in the same circle. So it's a really interesting book. I think what resonated with me was that he's saying it's going to be more and more difficult for startups because of the cost. But it's exactly the same with what I'm saying, because a larger company, they don't have to hire a lot of people. But in the meantime, we don't have to work for a large company anymore. So anybody, anywhere, we can just hire. There's so many AI employees, we can start our own business. So for that future, for that reason, I highly recommend this book.
How about you, Grant?
Yeah, Graham, maybe we'll start with your papers and your blog just mentioned previously, right?
Yeah, I mean, the blogs are very short, very easy to consume, but we have them on our All Hands AI site. In terms of if people want to go deeper in the field of like code generation or agents, I can recommend two classes. Unfortunately, I kind of feel like books are not really written as much in our field at the moment, or once they're written, they're already out of date often. So there's one class at CMU called Neural Code Generation. It's not a class that I teach, but it's taught by Daniel Fried and Sean Wellick, which is who are also kind of experts in the field. And it has a very good reading list of lots of papers that you can read through to get acquainted with the field. And then separately, on the topic of AI agents, Dawn Sung at Berkeley is running a kind of like online class this semester. I'm a guest lecturer, so it is kind of a self-plug, but it has a lot of famous lecturers from the field. So it might not be the most pedagogical way of learning about these sorts of things, because it's all guest lectures, so everybody's going to talk about different things, but at the very least, it'll be a good way to like hear from a lot of the people in the agent field about, what people are working on. So those are two that I could recommend.
I heard that class, it will be in the YouTube as well, right?
Yes, the CMU class I think just has a reading list with no YouTube videos, but the Berkeley class should be on YouTube.
Yeah, so our last question for the day, when you guys use AI coding products, do you have some interesting stories you want to share or some like a laugh moment? You feel like, oh, wow, when you use those products?
Yeah, I mean, I use it frequently. Um, the I do have this was a bug in our software, so we fixed it, and this should no longer be possible now. But we had our own product kill itself by accident once by killing its own process when it was trying to bring up a new server. So that goes back into the safety issues that we need to think about. You know, you need to make sure that things are carefully sandboxed. It also, yeah, they do all kinds of silly things every once in a while, but there's also magical things. Like one of my favorite instances of this is there's a task that I really hated to do every semester as a professor, which is update my class website. And the reason why I don't want to update my class website is I need to change all the dates to be correct, and I need to change them in like 3 different places because of the way my Markdown site is built. So I literally told our coding software, please go into this repo and fix the dates of all of the classes and put it's Tuesday and Thursday, and we have Democracy Day off for the presidential election on November 5th, and then this is our fall break. Please update all of the things and make sure you got it right. Double check your work. And it nailed it on the first try. And I literally started it before I went out to the grocery store and then came back. And by the time I came back from the grocery store, it was done. And it was like, this is something I was wasting 2 or 3 hours on every semester. And now I just have to ask an agent to do it for me. And that was my favorite like thing out of all the things I've done so far. I'll probably have better stories in a couple months, but yeah.
So do you have something you want to share?
Well, yeah. So, I was a scientist by training, and then I actually wasn't very good with front end. So I was using this, for Copilot or Ghostwriter, and then really helped me. And then the moment I'm using it, I feel like I don't have to collaborate with, because I used to have an intern who was still a student at Stanford, and then I can just eliminate him, and then I was like so happy. And then I was also trying to have this problem, and in my head, like, do I really? So how do I actually? Like not replacing people. I was worried about my kids, right? So they will be replaced, and then and then I was thinking, how can we actually put them, like in the loop, and then how can they become helpful? And so I think this is really interesting moment to me, to got me thinking, like, I feel like that's why I started AI use AI venture mindset more like a summit workshop. Because our partner Dr. Chu, he's on the board of Hacker, and then I started this with Hacker student and then Calcolor students, and then I felt like a lot of this aha moment, magic moment, can actually take me to take actions, and then that's something that I feel very grateful for my work. Yeah.
Thank you. Tonight I really learned a lot. It is really appreciated. So now it's the last comment. So please give like several sentences like comment for the audience. Let's start from Sue.
Yeah, I feel like we still stick to, for Amino, we still see two trends. One trend is, internet is still eating the world, like Mark Andreessen said. And then in the meantime, software 3.0 is eating the internet, meaning that this was defined by Replit's founder, right? So he's also doing investment on the side. And then he's really believed that in the future, AI agents is going to replace, coders, and that's the future. But in the meantime, as I mentioned before, I really believe that everybody, we have to have this venture and entrepreneurship mindset. This is so important because we do not want to work for those big companies anymore. We wanted to work for ourselves. So you probably heard that, if you are like 35-year-old and, you don't want to, you're not sometimes like, you don't want to work for somebody else. You want to work for yourself. But to the other extent, sometimes you don't feel comfortable to work in a large organization anymore. So you don't have to suffer anymore. So you can work for yourself. So that is why we really wanted to promote, as Tom, Vicky, and also Professor here, we really wanted to promote this entrepreneurial mindset. So that's what I'm going to do for the next decade. Yeah.
Thank you. Hi, Professor Graham. Can you give your last comment also?
Yeah, my main comment is this is, an exciting time as it has been for the past couple years, and things are going to progress rapidly. And, if any developers are listening to this, then there's a way you can participate, which is by going to download OpenHands and play with it and see what it can do. And the good thing about open source is you can go back and contribute back to it, change it in whatever way you want. So I'd encourage people to do that. It's definitely not solved yet. And I don't, as I said earlier in the podcast, I don't really think that software architecture or, good design of software is something that's going to be solved in the near future, maybe even far future, because, you need a lot of human intuition to be able to do that. So, but keeping up with the trends and how the software development landscape is going to change is going to be really, really important, I think. So hopefully this is a first step in that direction for some people, or a further step in that direction for other people. So, yeah, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Thank you a lot.
It's a great session.
Time well spent. Thank you.
Thank you.